Hi everyone, Chris England here. So this is again getting to be a little bit later than usual, but I'm still trying to get used to my job. So this is the new hero, also the rearmed hero, and we're going to start with the rearmed hero, who is the fell tactician. We have Robin. So one thing that I will probably note is that this is not actually Robin, this is Grima as a colorless breath armor drawn by Mai Okuma, and then once again Miyuki Sawashiro is the voice. So Kambaru, Suruga Kambaru from the Monogatari series. We have Ultir Milkovich from Fairy Tail. We have also Virgo and so the mother character of both Ultir and Gray. And then also Jolene Cujo from JoJo Stone Ocean. One thing I will probably note, while I do love the artwork that she has with the Grima Stone, the flowing cape that she has, I do have a problem with this being Robin. But I guess that's not necessarily me. So we do have a saver. So we have the Dragon's Hide. So we're going to have so this is a skill very similar to what she has in both her Halloween form and her legendary form. So nullifying the armor effectiveness. So it's not dragon effectiveness. So she can still be killed by the falchion. And then if she's attacked by a foe or at start of the battle, if the foe's HP is 75% or greater, during combat, the opponent gets Spectrum -8 and cooldown, and you get a cooldown count +1 per attack. So this is both a debuff and special fighter. We also have Hardy Fighter, and then we have a brand new type of near save. This time it's going to be an attack speed. So the Savior is going to move her to cover a unit if that unit's being hit by something, it's range 1. And then we also have Pavis. But the big thing is going to be, of course, her Arcane Grima. So, of course, she's going to have adapted damage and cooldown count -1. And then the specialty is, at the start of battle, if her HP is at least 25% or greater, she gets Spectrum +5 during combat, a guaranteed follow-up, which is kind of odd since she's a very speedy unit, and damage plus an additional buff to her damage equal to 15% of her attack. And then this also includes any kind of, if she's ever running an AoE special, this also includes that. And then after battle, she's going to recover 7 HP. This is a very good weapon specifically because it is a inheritable weapon. It's one of those pseudo PRFs that we're getting. What I do think is what I do kind of find interesting on this one is that she is another unit that is very hard to inherit from, just because the only skill that's inheritable by any dragon is Arcane Grima. The other two skills are currently locked to armor units. So while it is a good set of stats with the countdown buff, the buff to her damage reduction from Pavis, as well as a flat damage reduction of 5, and then also allowing her to have a Savior skill. But again, this means this is one of those cases where, unlike Arcane Lift, it's both easier and harder to inherit. Harder because you will require 2 copies of her in order to fully inherit everything. That being the weapon that she has, as well as either her B skill or her C skill. And then for the second one, if you didn't manage to get the weapon, which is easy, it's just a flame tongue base, you transfer over the remaining C skill. And then if you already gave that unit the base of Pavis, you then add Pavis. So, but for regular dragons, you only have the weapon and Pavis, which doesn't really add much to their kits. And now we move on to our new heroes. First off is the Swell Sword. We have Gregor. So one thing that I will note is that after hearing his voice, I heavily prefer the English dub for Gregor. Only because Paul St. Peter actively sounds a lot like the voice actor for Heavy for Team Fortress 2. I'm a little bit sad that they don't try and make him sound a little bit more foreign or a little bit older. I don't deny that Mr. Kenji Hamada does a horrible job. He does an excellent job voicing him. It's just, I think for me, because I heard the English dub first, and I immediately went to Heavy. I like that one better. But we still also have some much needed, not beautiful, but down-to-earth art from Niji Hayashi. And not surprisingly, Gregor is going to be our sword infantry. And luckily enough, this is a very long time since we've actually had a 5-star locked sword infantry, which is very nice. It means that they're now realizing that they have to swap everything out. So for the basic skills, we have Bonfire. We also have Infantry No Follow-Up. We then have Solid Ground. So this is the defense version of Stillwater. Attack defense +7 with the resistance -5. And then we have for his weapon, the Blade of Favors. We have cooldown count -1. At the start of either player's turn, type turn, so either your turn or your foe's turn, if there is a enemy within 3 columns and 3 rows of his position, that foe gets -6 to attack, speed, and defense. And then he gets 6 to those stats for that turn. And then when he attacks, or if he's initiates battle, or is within 2 spaces of an ally, the opponent gets attack, speed, defense -5, and then an additional minus based on whatever penalty they have. So that 6 penalty now makes a +17 minus to each stat. And then under the same conditions during that battle, the first attack's damage he takes will be reduced by 40%. So we have a beautiful kit. We have cooldown count. We have ASD Menace, albeit with a little bit more restrictive conditions. And then we have a Vulture Tome. So Vulture offering everything except resistance, which he's not really going to care about. I do think that he is kind of like a definite gem of the banner because just because he actually has some very good skills in total. He offers null follow-up to your fellow infantry units. He has just massive attack and defense at the cost of his resistance being kind of meh, and then a really good weapon. I would say that the fact that he's missing that B skill doesn't even matter anymore. It's just not worth looking at on that one. And for our 4-star demote, we have the Pegasus Master, Phila. So this was one of those weird choices. Not the weirdest choice I've seen, but definitely a very weird choice in terms of putting in. Because this now means we have 2 characters of the first generation and 1 child character left for Awakening. So 3 units in total left. And they chose Phila for this one. So Phila is going to be a Lance Flyer as a demote. So this means that she will have a lot of competition. We have the artist as Masaki Hirooka. And then for the voice actress, we have Mika Kanda. So this one was a little bit more harder to search as opposed to maybe Kenji Hamada, who did Angelo Katagiri from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Diamond is Unbreakable. We had also Haruaki Azuma from World Trigger. But in this case, I had a hard time finding something outside of Fire Emblem where the best role that I found was Pharos from TMS. We also have Martha from the Atelier series, and then Carmilla from Code Vein. So once again, we have a 4-star special kit, starting with the Rain Lance. So Rain Lance essentially is going to be just a buffed version of Speed Defense Rain, where it's instead of being that max of ±4, it's -5. She also comes with Iceberg. And as her A skill, being the 4-star demote skill, we have Brazen Attack Res 3. Sadly, her, let's see, Pegasus Flight skill is locked to a 5-star, which I honestly feel like is less of a value point than it should be, since this skill has already been power crept very heavily by other skills. So, and the other thing is that the Brazen series, this is it. We have not released a single Brazen 4 outside of Summer Wolt, which I think is a very sad thing. So she's going to be focusing a lot on the attack res. She's also going to have a very focused on speed. Defense is her only dump stat, which is kind of sad. If you think about it, it just means that she's gonna not want to deal with any kind of bow unit, but she's also going to do massive amounts of debuffs onto attack and defense for the foe based on the difference, with a maximum being 7. Now, once again, this is another a good example of a unit whose kit really needs to be remade a lot. I do believe that B skill could easily be changed with maybe to go along with her Brazen, a Desperation. Her C skill is very open to like a Menace skill. But again, it's really up to the player's decision how they modify her. I really do hope, though, that the next rearmed hero that we get is a Lance rearm. That way, we can actually give her something that's beyond the Rain Lance. Now, I don't say that Rain Lance is absolutely a horrible weapon, but it's just kind of meh. And of course, as demonstrated by our Tempest trial, we have Life Ascended Heir, this time as a Green Dagger Cavalry. So this is her 3rd version, and so far she has had nothing except daggers. I mean, I'd prefer seeing her in something else, maybe with a lance or a tome, but to each their own. So we have, once again, very beautiful artwork by Hachan with the blue birds. Her outfit doesn't necessarily remind me of Ymir, but it actually makes me think a little bit more on Yune, maybe Micaiah, which is nice because Micaiah's legendary form was done by Hachan. And then we have Sora Amamiya as her voice actress. So I'll go with some of the easiest ones that I can think of. We have Toka Kirishima from Tokyo Ghoul. We have Mia from the Everyday Life with Monster Girls. And then I believe Actually, I can't really remember the other series that I could think of, so this is probably what I would look into in general. So, as for her kit, we saw her in the Tempest Trials. And what a change we have. So she did not, this is one of those weird cases where she did not have any of her original skills. I believe Leif did the same thing, but she did have the let's see, ever-living Ymir. So she's going to get of course, the cooldown count -1 if she initiates combat or her opponent is a range 2 unit. During combat, she gets Spectrum +5, and at the start, based on the HP total at the start of combat, she adds 40% of the HP of the second lowest ally, excluding herself, to her attack, with a maximum being 20. So this one's a little bit weird, but this basically means that if she either initiates combat or is facing off against another ranged unit, she's going to buff herself and then get a bonus based on the middle ranged HP unit times 40%. So if you have, ignoring her, you have a 60, 50, and 40, you're going to be basing it off that 50 HP. And of course, this skill doesn't work if you have one or less allies, because for some reason they decide it's not worth giving you that bonus if you're alone. And then she also has the self-null follow-up ability. And then she had, like Ymir before her, she also has the HP conditional miracle. Actually, this is, now that I look at her kit a little bit better, she does, instead of it being Ymir, it's actually a carbon copy of what Celica does, where if she's initiated combat or is fighting a ranged unit, and her HP is 25% or more, and the opponent would perform a fatal hit, she instead remains with 1 HP. We also have Dragon Fang and Attack Speed Catch 4. I'm going to point this out every single time. Attack Speed Catch 4 is Year 6's version of what Attack Speed Push 4 was. We also have her Sparkling Life, or Sparkling Boost, where at the start of turn, the ally who's lost the most HP, excluding herself, gets a bonus 10 HP. And then we have Mystic Boost 4. During combat, the foe's attack is going to get -5. And if the opponent has any ability that says that does adaptive damage, or as the staff does the same damage as a normal weapon, you nullify those. And then if the opponent is a staff unit, it nullifies any denied counterattack. So she was the originator of Mystic Boost in her kit. So it seems only natural for her to get the 4 version as her Ascended. So one of the big things that I see about her kit is that she's, again, it's starting to feel like Catch is being put into units kind of willy-nilly at this point, because she's not doing any kind of penalties once again. The only time in which she's going to buff out of just self-use is with that HP condition, because none of her other skills have debuffs in them. So again, I wouldn't really recommend taking off her B or C. I probably would switch out her A skill for something a little bit more, maybe like a Swift Sparrow 3, just to give her a little bit more of an attack, a consistent buff, since she is going to be trying to initiate combat more times than anything else. And we have our new story, The Empress and Prince. So one thing that we will actually also be getting is Ricken. So Ricken is the Shepherd Novice, drawn by Eiji and voiced, I assume, by Yuki Masuda. Unfortunately, because I did not confirm this, I don't have any roles that I can actively think of specifically for the voice actor, but I will put that in the description as I usually do with the behind the voice actors to say these are other options that I can think of. So what he's going to come with is Grand Rabbit Plus. So this is the green version of the Rabbit series. We've seen plenty of units have this in either red or blue, so we're still waiting on colorless for this one. He also is going to have, I believe, Luna. And then for his 4-star special, we have Spurn Attack Speed 2. For his 5-star, we have Attack Speed Form. So sadly, once again, he doesn't exactly have very valuable skill sets. The C is nice to add in, but it's not really one of the biggest things that you want. It is nice to see that the rabbit now has come almost first full circle, with only colorless being the last thing that they will actually get. So as I mentioned, we have of course we have the continuation of the Floret, we have the Rearmed, and we have the Spark. And then one thing that the trailer does not actively cover is Cervantes, RGHB. So this is the Invincible General, drawn by Kamonegi and voiced by Shinya Fukumatsu. Now, unlike Ricken's case with Yuki Masuda, because this one I actually did see them put it in, but I was unable to really find any roles that I could really realistically compare to or say that I know these roles, therefore I kind of know what this voice actor can do. So we have the Defiler's Lance. If the foe's HP is 75% or greater at the start of combat, it's a swing of +5 to your defense, -5 to foe's defense, and then if foe has any bonuses, the foe gets a penalty and you get a bonus based on that bonus. So it's a very good unit to soak up bonuses. We also have Ignis. We have for his 4-star the Wary Fighter, so denial of both players' follow-ups. And also for his 5-star, we have Attack Defense Ideal. So unfortunately, this is a good example of another unit that is very, very good because he's an armor unit. I already decided to go full on with him. But it's also the fact that he's not necessarily that impressive. You do have to do a lot of work with his kit. And this is another reason why I think that there should be a Lance Rearmed hero coming up. Perhaps I'd like to see one as a freebie. So I'm actually going to go ahead and go through some of the units that I think are actively some of the best. So Gregor is actually one of the better kind of all-round units. While I would not recommend sparking for him, I do think that he is very, very worth pulling for, just because of that solid ground, making it very easy for any unit that has a love of attack and defense with very little care for resistance to have another skill that actively pumps them. Then his Blade of Favors is actually a very good weapon in and of itself, just on principle alone, with damage reduction and then a pseudo menace as well as a pseudo vulture effect. And let's not also forget that he gives the null follow-up to other units. Now, note that he does not necessarily give himself null follow-up, so that is something that you will have to give him as a possible B skill, because it's the infantry null follow-up 3 does not only hits allies, it doesn't hit himself. I would say next up would actually be Air. Again, the floret makes her a very valuable target for for what she offers. She's another source for catch. She's the first source for the Mystic Boost 4. And all in all, she's just a very good unit that offers support options as well as offensive options. I would even say that Phila is a very good unit just because of the type of kit that she offers. Sure, it's not impressive right off the bat, but it's also a fact that she can get better with the more effort that you put into her. Same thing with Cervantes. Even Ricken has a decent kit if you want to try using him with his form, his Grand Rabbit. It's another unit that's going to really require a lot of love and attention and lots of 5 stars to eat up. The one unit that, while I do tend to recommend choices, is Grima. Grima. Wait. I'm confused. This is essentially a fallen Robin, but she refers to herself more as Grima, not as Robin, from what I remember from the Forging Bonds. At least I haven't gone the full distance, but everyone refers to her as Grima. She has the the emblem of Grima in her Dragonstone. She actually looks like a subtle yandere character. And the fact is also that she has the emblem on the back of her hand. I don't know about the other hand. So, why is she still named Robin? This makes me realistically wonder if they're ever going to release a character that is Grima, an actual Grima character with the Grima name, not just a fallen version of Robin, either male or female, with the name being just Robin, but the character being everything but Robin. I mean, don't get me wrong, her kit. And the other thing that kind of bothers me is the fact that she is an armored dragon, which does mean that she is severely limited in what she can offer to units. The thing there, I think I remember trying to research this, and I don't remember many dragon units that are both armored and fast enough. Because you will be giving them the weapon. But in terms of her kit, it's a lot harder to change. True, the clash skill that you got with Lif, it's technically transferable to anyone. You're just never going to use it with armored units unless you're using it with assault troop or some kind of movement boosting skill to actively get that penalty nullification. And he also had menace, so you could legitimately get every single skill onto one unit. The problem here is that both of these skills are specifically for armored. And I will actually do a little bit more research before I type this up, but I do kind of remember that there aren't that enough dragon units that are both armored to take advantage of the fact that they can actually gain the skills, and are either fast enough to take advantage of the savior skill, or have enough defense. It's either one or the other. I know that the defense one is very easy to deal with, but also I have a hard time understanding what dragons would want Pavis instead of like their normal weapon. But I feel like I do also note that this is an arcane unit. Therefore, or a rearmed unit, my apologies. I do like the name Arcane instead, but I will probably point out that this is going to be not every single banner. So this is not going to be added into the normal pool. So while I do recommend getting Air and Gregor possibly as your spark just because of the unit's abilities, I do recommend choosing Robin only because she is a limited unit. But that is it for me tonight on this this one, I will be doing the next one shortly after. So thank you very much for your time, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you, and have a nice night.